Hello. So we're going to be talking about reshaping data. So having understand what a tidy data is. So the package that we'll be using to reshape data here is the tidy R package. It's already included in the tidyverse package. And there are four main functions. The functions are pivots longer, pivots wider, separate, and unite. So those are the four tidy R functions we're going to be focusing on. The first one is pivot longer. The pivot longer functions like it makes a data set that is not tidy, it transforms it or reshape it into a tidy form that is pivot longer, for instance, and it has a lot of different arguments, as you can see here, but there are actually four main arguments that are important, very important here. So for instance, if you look at this example here, we can see that this table 4A here is not tidy because looking at the row, the row did not represent a single observation, so this is not tidy. So the pivot longer function can be used to wangle or reshape it into a tidy form. And this is the code. Pivot longer, you enter in the data, then the columns that you want to pivot. So in this case, is this column 2 and column 3. So we can write it as column 2 to 3. Then the names tool, that is, you want to put the names of this into year. So the names to year in quotation and then the values to cases. So the name goes into the year column and then the values to the values that are in there will label the column cases. So that is what the pivot longer function does. The next function is the pivot wider. It's kind of like reverses what the pivot longer function does. And as you can see in this example, you can see this is a longer table. So it's pivots it wider. So the function is pivot wider. The first argument, the name of the data set, which in this case is table 2. Then the names are coming from the column type here. So cases, pop, and that's what goes in here. So from type, and then the values from count. So we are putting in the values that are coming from the column counts here. So that's what the pivot. So if you are using the physical edition of right as of now, there is first only one edition of the textbook, you might see gather and spread in this case here. So that was the function that was in the previous edition of the tidy R, but this one is more commonly used now. Pivot longer and pivot wider. So if you have the electronic, the online version of the textbook, it has been updated, but of course the physical textbook has not been updated. So I thought I should let you know. So now it's pivots longer and pivots wider. The other tidy R functions is the separate function, which separates one column into 2 or more columns. And here is an example of how that is used. So we can see in this table 3 here, we have this column right here that needs to be separated. So the way the function works here is to have separate the data, then the column that needs to be separated, and then what the separator is, which is a backslash here, and then into equals the vector of what you want to separate it into, cases, pop, as you can see here. So you can see now that it transforms it, splits this rate column into cases and pop, and then it's used this backslash as an indicator. And then the last function is the unite function. It unites 2 columns into 1. So kind of like reversing what the separate function does. And here is an example here. We have this table 5. So we want to unite the century column and the year column. So unite the data, the century, the columns to be united century, year, and then what you want to call the new column that you're transforming it into, that's year. And then if there's going to be any separator, so if there's nothing separating them, you can just leave it blank. So that's how we use this tidyr function to wangle data sets. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any question. Thank you and God's blessings.